looks like we are live. I hope everyone is having a great Wednesday. Today is, I've done live streams in color before, so it's not like, oh my God, but it's been a minute, right? It's been since like 2017 that I did a live stream in color. So definitely something different, something exciting for those. Ironically, today we're not going to be touching color because we're going to be transferring the drawing. This is my line drawing, my very own line drawing. And I'm going to be transferring that with Saral paper on Masonite panel that I am, the Masonite panel I will be, I have used gesso with that. So several coats of gesso, which will take the acrylics when I do color airbrushing, but I'm still going to do an underpainting, and I'll start that black and white underpainting in India ink today, but it's going to be a whole new surface. It's not the color line paper by Canson, so it's something very, very different. Different for you guys. I've done it for years, so it's just a new chapter, so to speak. Still going to be doing the black and white live streams, but this particular project for the next 6 or 7 weeks is going to be this color painting. So that's going to be really cool. So let's say hello to some of our peeps here today. So Patty, all the way from Illinois, how are you? I'm so glad you're here. That is so cool. And we have Brad all the way from Manitoba, Canada. Great to see you. And we have Roy Johnson from New Jersey. How's everything, Roy? Always a pleasure. Oz from the Atlanta area, ATL. How are you, sir? So glad you're here. Rick Latta from Vancouver. How are you? Always a pleasure to see you, Rick. 2 Canadians in the house. So that is great. So very happy to see us. And if you want me to give you a shout out, just say hello in the comments, like, hey Tim, how you doing? It's about time you work in color, something like that. Hey, how are you, honey? How's everything? Great to see you all the way from Rockville Center, New York, Long Island. As they say in Long Island, you know, oh my God, right? So, I know I went to college out in Long Island, Southampton College, part of Long Island University, and that was fun times. Didn't learn much, but had fun. So the stuff that I have on this is Saral paper. Saral paper is great transfer paper. It's a graphite transfer paper. And you can see it's very dusty. So it says Saral wax-free transfer paper for precision tracing on any surface. Contains no wax or grease. Erases like pencil, won't smear, washes out in fabric. Ink or paint over tracing, won't skip. Economical, can be used again and again. And it makes great fries. So this is fantastic. Alright, so I have this surface, I have this taped down. So I need it to be flat so it doesn't shift, because I don't want ghosting, right? Ghosting's no fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace, and notice I'm tracing in blue so I can see where I've been somewhat, right? Red would have been perfect, but I don't have any red pens. And I'm going to go straight down and make sure that I get everything. So I'm going to do it like an inkjet printer. I'm just going to go straight down like this, right? It's going to be so much fun. The subject is Michela Cruz. She is a fashion designer, and I got her okay to use this image. So I was so excited when that happened. She is a very, very sweet person. She's from Brazil, and so it's very exciting. So Michela Cruz, I don't have the picture of her just yet, but let's get me out of here. Let me see. Be gone with you, Tim. There we go. Now you don't see me. Okay. And we're just going to continue this. So tell me, what are you guys working on, guys and girls? What's the project you're currently working on? Is it airbrush? Is it another media? Love to hear. And I hope that it's coming out. Let me see if I can do a sneak peek. Yes, it's looking good. Very nice. Okay. So far, so good. So the paints I'll be using are going to be golden, fluid acrylics, and the airbrush I'm going to be using is going to be a variety of airbrushes, including the Extreme Patriot 105. Notice I'm coming down because I don't want to miss anything, right? So just call me Mr. Inkjet Printer. That's who I am right now. I like the Surround paper because it is like graphite, so you can erase it somewhat. And I'm not trying to be perfect copying my line drawing, but I am trying to be as accurate as possible. Now I'm going to make sure I don't do too many of the interior lines, because with Surround paper it's kind of unpredictable at what you can erase. So I'm just going to be thinking of the major lines, right? I'm not going to be going too crazy with interior contours, but like the eyebrows, right? Maybe some location lines that will help. Yeah, so this is one of the first times, honey, that I'm actually showing the very early stages. Now I have a lot of different techniques. This is the technique I use when working on wood panel, or let's say working on aluminum or something like that. So I use my own line drawing as opposed to a photograph, right? Because it's important that I'm still using my own hand, right? That's important to me. And I'm going to take my time because, as you can see, I'm going pretty fast. So I need to chill out and go a little bit slower. It's never a good idea to rush. People might say, Tim, I'm rushing because I have this commission. Well, the commission was too short of a deadline. So I never have too much compassion for rushing through a painting at any stage. The planning stage, you don't want to rush through that. Look at this, she has a little cute earring here. I'm going to put that in. Okay, so here we have I'm just going to take my time, take my own sweet time. You don't want to have regrets. Oh, I wish I would have spent more time on the line drawing. Oh, I wish I would have planned on that a little better. No, regrets are never good. And so this is a part one. Usually there's a lot more people here, but I look at it this way. Whoever's here is meant to be here. So there's a lot to be gained from this particular episode. This is like having a free workshop, because it's going to really give you great ideas on how to begin a painting. Whether you're working in airbrush or working in oil, this technique of me beginning a painting is applicable. Mr. Todd, how are you, sir? Great to see you. All the way from San Diego, California. Love San Diego. This is the hard part right here. And the lines may not be all that hot, but we'll see. We shall see. But that's where, you know, your drawing aspects comes in later, you know. There we go. Okay. See, it's good I work in blue because now I can see where I may have missed if it's not blue, so that helps. Okay, so now we're going to work on the next important area, and that's going to be her hand. So I want to spend the most time on the most intricate parts of this painting. We'll start on her thumb. Did you all know that in the fingers there are no muscles? I know I probably mentioned that last week, but that's pretty cool. I believe there's 27 bones in the human hand, 26 in the foot. Between the two hands and the foot, I think that's almost like, in the feet, I think that's something like 80% of the bones in the body, if not more. That is fascinating, isn't it? In itself. And we'll just continue working on her hand. Bring this down here like so. Going into her forearm. Right over here. She loves jewelry. And she models jewelry often, so I want to make sure that I get her jewelry perfect. There's some interior lines. I'm going to refrain from them. Maybe just a few right here. Some of these tendons will indicate them. Okay. And now we just have the fabric of her jacket, and that is it. And then we're ready to start spraying. Okay. Always want to thank God for giving me the strength to do these live streams and the blessing to have you great people here. And I'm thankful for that. And I always want to express that in the beginning of my live streams. Especially this new, well, old new chapter. Because my first live streams were in color back in 2016 and 2017. It wasn't until 2018 that I started doing exclusively in black and white. But exclusive in black and white, those days are over. So as you see, doing it in blue pen, I'm not going to miss anything, right? If I did it in black pen, using the black inkjet paper, I might miss stuff. But here, Tim's not missing a darn thing. Okay. Okay, so we have these little lines here. I'm going to see about getting the JPEG of Michela for you. I was so excited when she gave me the go ahead to paint her. Oh, so Honey asked, what am I transferring to? Great question. So this is hardboard or masonite. And I put about 6 coats of gesso. And I sanded in between. So it's a nice smooth surface that is going to accept the acrylic paint beautifully. So you have to gesso wood because you want it to accept the paper. Accept the paint, sorry. Got a few more folds. So you see how these folds are? It's reminiscent to my favorite artist ever, which is Jacques-Auguste Dominique Ingres. He would do this kind of shorthand in the fabric. And I'm doing that in this line drawing. A few more to go, and then we'll look and see how good or bad it is. Sorrel paper is really cool. You can get that at Michael's. I don't recommend you getting it at Michael's. It's going to be way too expensive there. Hobby Lobby, maybe, but still crazy prices. So Cheap Joe's, Blick, Jerry's Artorama, if you're in the UK, Jackson's. Okay, so I think we're ready to go. Let's see. We're going to lift this up. And we're going to either be very happy or we're going to weep. Let's see. I'm hoping not to weep. Dun 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 dun. Now you can reuse this Sorrel paper, as it says. Okay, so we got a little more work to do right there, but I can get away with it. So I'm going to use that, and I'm going to come back in with the pencil so I can reiterate. But I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, that's not bad. You know, I can draw, so I don't need it to be everything, right? So let's remove all the tape. Forever hold your peace. We'll put this aside. Just another thing I have to clean up later. Put that right over here. Okay. That's a nice clean drawing actually. And so we're going to reiterate this drawing, work on some of the areas that we may have missed. Not bad. We have our pencil. And I'm going to see if I can get that image for us. So let's see. Okay, so bear with me, I'm going to open up Krita, and in Krita I'm going to get the line drawing, save the reference. Okay, so. Oh, that's not the one we want. We'll close that. Be right with you guys. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. File, save as. We'll make this a JPEG. Nope, did not want to do that. Let's see. Save as image, JPEG. And doing all this so I can bring it up and you can see what I'm working on. Okay, great. So now I can come over here and add this photo. Image, pictures, Vicella. There you go. So this is what I'll be working with. And it's going to be a little bit lighter, my version of it, but that's a general idea of what I'll be working with today. And so now I'm going to get my reference and I'm going to start drawing in this here. Good old-fashioned drawing. Work on this eye here. Working on wood is very interesting. It's a lot different than working on paper. That's for certain. And then we'll work on her nostrils. And of course, you know, it's working down the center line of her face. Colette, how are you? Great to see you. How's everything? all the way from Wisconsin. So cool. Thank you for coming. Okay, see, I'm not going to go too crazy with the line drawing. I'm just going to make it better. Or, just, how do you say, get the important lines in. Get her lips here. And indicate the ears. So we have the helix right over here. Then you have the antihelix right inside here. And that goes into the tragus. So even though you don't see everything, if you know anatomy, you know where everything goes. So you can identify all the parts of the ear if you know anatomy at any angle. So it doesn't look like, just this weird shapes that you're doing. It's predictable. It's anatomical. Go. And so we have her hair coming up like this. Okay. Alright, so now I'm pretty happy with what I have, but let me just work on this upper eyelid right here. We're seeing just a little bit of it, our upper eyelid, as his hair is coming down. And right here, we're looking at the shadow plane of her retrorbicularis oculi fat compartment right here. Okay, so pretty happy with that thus far. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and start right away with the airbrush. And right now I have the medium mixture in my airbrush, and that's just not going to do. I was working on another project. Pam, how are you? Great to see you. How's everything? All the way from Virginia. So glad you're here. And Colette says, excellent drawing. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's all, Angra says that a good painting is 85% drawing. And I agree with Angra. I don't think I ever disagreed with Angra. Let's see. So I'm going to squirt that out, get rid of all of this. And, oh no, Pam said she had a tornado yesterday. It shook your house. Oh, thank God you're okay. And I'm glad you were praying. That is definitely, you always need to, of course, know that God is in control at that time, right, Pam? So I'm so glad you're okay and God answered your prayers. Thank God for that. And I'm happy that you're okay. Actually ecstatic you're okay. So I'm going to take my detail mixture, and I'm not going to go half and half, but I'm going to go maybe, 60-40. Right? 66-33. Just put that in there, mix that up. So you're working on this. It's going to be a little less absorbent, actually a lot less absorbent than working on the paper, because the paper is softer, it has more, it doesn't have more of a texture, but it's softer and it's more absorbent, so it's going to absorb a lot of that ink, right? That this is not going to. Gonna raise up my chair. Here we go. All right. We are ready to rock and roll, they say. Oh, I'm so glad you're okay, Pam. That is cool. So my air pressure at the compressor is 25 psi, and my MAC valve is lowered because I'm going to do some close distancing. I'm going to start with her eye as I always do. Let me zoom in for you. Look at that drawing. Back in the old days. Old days drawing. I'm going to... Here we go. Now if I was any closer or had a higher air pressure, it would be Spider City. So we don't want that. And notice I'm building up my dark. There we go. And once again, this is an underpainting that's going to be for working in acrylic in color. And I'm going to come into the shadow plane of the eye socket here. Moving into the eyebrow. And of course we're going to indicate the crease of the upper eyelid. And we see the crease of the upper eyelid on this side. Make sure you only darken what needs to be darkened, not what you think needs to be darkened. John Diekman, how are you? I'm so glad you're here. And thank you, John, and thank you so much, Pam. I really appreciate that. John Diekman, all the way from Wisconsin. Always great to see you, sir. And on this side of the white of the eye, it's not so white, because it's in shadow. And so here's that retrospicularis oculi fat compartment. And as I go lighter, I'm going to increase my distance. Go. And of course the lower eyelid, which is, always remember where the light's facing. So the opposite side of the light is going to get the shadow. And we're just going to follow this down to the side plane of the face, right? And let's make this happen. See right here, I'm about 4 inches away. I want to do this transition tone here, so I'm going to be about 7 inches away, maybe even 8 inches. And you see how I can nail that transition tone as the face turns towards the light on camera left side. Let the airbrush do the hard work. We'll go on this other eye for now. We'll move this over so we can see this eye. So it's a little different approach than how exact I am with the color line paper with Canson and working strictly in ink. This is basically just, this is all going to be covered with color, but it's a good foundation for when I do work in color, that I have the drawing aspect really well established. I'm going to lower that air pressure a little bit. And I may come in later with some brush techniques. That would be cool. And work on some of the side plane here. And the cast shadow underneath and to the side of the nostril here. Just like so. Oop, let me get a ginger ale break. Let's see. Kind of sounds like a beer, but it's ginger ale, I promise. That's very good. All right. It's funny, I lost 2 people in the chat when I mentioned ginger ale. So I don't know, we have some ginger ale haters out there. I think that's funny. And Patty says she needs to sign off. Have a great night, Patty. Don't work too hard, and I hope to see you on Facebook over the weekend. And happy Thursday tomorrow. So sometimes you'll see that. Let's zoom out so you can see what I'm doing. So sometimes you'll see that the trigger may get a little sticky, and that could be a number of things. Most of the time there's a little bit of dry ink in the nozzle. So I just loosen the chucking nut, twirl this in and out, pull it out just a little bit, and then blow it out. And we'll see if that, yeah, that seems to have fixed the problem. Always get that low hanging fruit first and then go from there, right? That's always the best way. Okay, so we're continuing our underpainting of Richella, and let's make this happen. So right now I'm painting the alar cartilage of her nose, which is the bottom third of the anatomy of the nose. Notice I'm not using any freehand shields here or anything, pretty much doing totally total just freehand airbrushing. Okay, some drawings missed right here. Right here goes down by her eye. Let me make sure I get this correct. Okay. So this comes right here, like this. This comes out, and we come out just a little bit. Let's go this way. This comes in at a pretty good clip, and then out like this. And we may adjust this later. And really light shadow of the philtrum. And let's see, Honey says, is it best to use gray, black, or sepia for the underpainting? That's totally a choice. Sepia is okay, but you're not working with a full range of values because sepia starts out very light. So you can do sepia, that's fine. I personally like black because I have a full range of values if I like. So definitely black, but yeah, you can do any color you'd like. You know, you can even do a underpainting in flesh tints, right? You can do a Venetian red underpainting like the Venetian painters did, like Titian and Veronese back in the 1500s and 1600s in Venice. You definitely can do that too. So it's like the world's your oyster when it comes to it. I do like doing the Venetian red underpainting because it kind of have that feeling of blood underneath. So you get that kind of luminous quality, which is really great. So with this, working with this ink, you have to, on this paper, you realize that you can get spidering really quickly. And you can also get staining. So you have to let the ink catch up to the surface. cast shadow of this hair right there. And the hairline, we'll make sure we do that. Since I have a lot of control of the ink and the airbrush, I don't really need stencils too much. Plus this is going to be a very light underpainting anyway. Okay, let's work on her mouth. I love painting open mouths because it's a challenge. With the teeth and tongues, all that, very interesting. A lot of artists shy away from it, but I don't. Right underneath her mouth is the cast shadow. And we're going to, of course, build this up. So think of underpaintings as solving a problem one step at a time, as trying to solve everything all at once. So if you don't use an underpainting, you're basically saying to yourself, I'm going to solve the drawing, the value, the edges, the color. I'm going to solve all that at once. That's great, but that's like juggling, you know, 6 tennis balls while reciting the Gettysburg Address. But if you break it down individually, do the line drawing, then do the value study, and then do color on top of that, you're kind of taking the complex and breaking it down to its simplest form, so it's easy to complete. So that's why I like the underpaintings. And that's not from me, that's been going on forever. Who really perfected underpaintings, I feel, with the 19th century French academic painters, William Bouguereau, those guys. Alma Tadema, who used to do underpaintings as well. Right here, this shadow here. See, you have the supraorbital eminences on both sides above the eye sockets. It's a protrusion. And then as just before you get to where the nasal bones are, is called the glabella. And that glabella is an indentation, right? It goes in. And you can see it in the more in the profile as you have the indentation and then the nasal bones start. So I'm going to be painting that in. So the fact that I know anatomy, actually I don't need to have such a tight drawing, you know. I could actually just go ahead with my knowledge of anatomy, kind of fill in the blanks. Okay, so right here we have the zygomatic bone, and as it goes into the maxilla, we have this dark indentation. The dark indentation is really the space that's between the zygomatic bone and the mandible or the jawbone. There's like a space in between, and that's what causes that shadow. Hey Brayden, how are you, my friend? Are you back in Canada? So how was New York? Are you feeling better and all that stuff? And when did you get back? Oh, okay. He still has a cough, but feeling better. Oh, it's, next time you come to New York, we'll definitely hang out and have a lot of fun, sir. But no, if you're not feeling well, that's always more important for you to feel better, sir. I definitely understand. Now I'm going to work on her ear here. Oh, cool. So Braden said he's going to come back to New York? Oh, that's going to be great. Definitely. Yeah, New York's a great city to visit. Really is. Expensive to live, but really great to visit. Okay, so squint my eyes, I can see that there's a gray value to the upper lip. Just going to put that in. So before I actually go in with color, I'm going to make sure that I get rid of all of the pencil lines the best that I can, because that is, I don't want to be fighting them. Because when you work in acrylic, it will always trap the pencil lines, but India ink doesn't, so that's another reason why I work in India ink underpainting as opposed to working in an underpainting, let's say using acrylic, because no matter what I do, that acrylic's going to trap that pencil line, and then I'm going to have to deal with it, you know. So that's kind of rough. So I want to kind of, best defense is not to be there in the first place. And notice that I'm not going dark in the values right away, that I do it in layers, because the surface of of the masonite, it's going to actually spider if I try and go too dark. And it'll spider and stain. So those are two things, because it's not paper, so it acts totally different than the paper. And so what we'll do is we'll continue over here. We see that we have a dark inside edge at the contour of the jaw going down to the chin, and we have a dark contour here. And as I get lighter, as her cheeks get turned towards the light, I'm going to increase my distance. The further I am away from the surface, the lighter my spray is. And remember, we're working with a white surface as opposed to a gray surface, so I kind of have to work harder to get the values I want. It's all about value relationships. Now as I let this surface dry, I will slowly start to erase some of these pencil lines when I can. And of course, we're going to build up the dark of her hair, because that's our darkest area. And we're just going to slowly build that up. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with the background, but I want to do something interesting. Maybe do New York City in the background, or maybe Brazil, where Michela is from. But I want to do something very interesting, different than what's back here. So you got to be careful you don't oversaturate the surface, because the ink will kind of sit on top. So you want to be very careful of that. Okay, so now let's work on her hand, right? Let's do that a little bit, and let's go down here to her hand. Don't want to ignore any important areas. Working on her thumbnail. sure you're doing the 1 second rule, right? Very important. So as you can see, when you're using India ink, you can do a full painting using this particular surface, right? You can also use this surface to do a underpainting for oils. You can use this surface to do an underpainting for pastel. And right now you can see I'm using it for an underpainting for acrylic airbrush. So the world's kind of like your oyster with these underpaintings. There we go. So now we can see the whole image here. Let's make sure I'm in focus, right? Could you imagine the whole live stream I'm out of focus? That would make me sad. But I think we're in focus. Now we're in focus more. So that's good. Okay. Take care, honey. Always a pleasure. Thanks for hanging out. And I hope you have a great night and a great weekend coming up. I'm going to work on the jacket around her thumb here. And let's see. Okay, great. And we'll start with the jacket. With the Extreme Patriot Arrow, where other airbrushes you would need a stencil to keep from underspraying, overspraying, this really helps. Having a precision airbrush like this, you don't have to worry as much for overspray. And of course you don't want to build Rome in a day, and you want to make sure that you build up these shadows, these dark values. You can get there. See, India ink is a transparent, and transparent you build up layer upon layer to get darker and darker. So with an underpainting, you want the values to be lighter because you're putting color on top, and as you put color on top, of course, your values are going to get darker. So anytime you cover the light, whether it's with black, whether it's ink, or whether it's with color, you're actually creating a film to get in front of the surface that's going to block more light. So you want your underpainting to be a little bit lighter than the finished painting, because as you add the color on top of the underpainting, it's going to naturally get darker. So you don't want to get to the point where the painting is too dark and then you have to lighten it, especially in airbrush, right? Airbrush is not the best medium in the world for lightening and darkening values. Lightening and darkening values in the latter stages of the painting. Notice that I'm not getting as blotchy because I'm using distance. And you see how I'm building this up, and when I build up this dark and this dark, will actually reveal the shape of her arm. I'm just going to work inside this contour here. How's the picture, guys? Is it too light, too dark? Let me know. Don't get too wet because you can get a staining effect, so make sure you keep your distance. If you see it's getting blotchy, just increase your distance. And still always make sure you follow that 1 second rule. Can't stress that enough. Notice I'm using very little freehand shields, if any. Everything's so light. And if I get a little blotchy, you see that I'm too close to the surface. I'm just going to make sure I'm further away. The good thing about the India ink is that you maintain that texture. You don't lose any texture. If I was doing this, let's say in acrylic or Createx, doing my underpainting, which someone might say, well, why don't you do it? And because I'm going to lose my texture, A, I'm going to trap the pencil lines in there, B, and I'm not going to have as much control, C. So India ink is a no-brainer for an underpainting. There would be no reason to use an acrylic for underpainting unless you want all those extra issues. John says, looking great, Tim. He has to go. Have a great night, John. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, sir. Okay. Darken up some of these values here. Now you can see I'm starting to get some really nice light and dark here. Go, come back under here. Oh, there's a nice cast shadow on her chin here, cheek. Love this. Creates some really nice dimension. Okay, this comes out, comes here, and then in here we have this nice shape right here. Right by her, on the other side of this thumb, there's this nice dark shape going against the thumb, creating a nice silhouette, a beautiful hard edge next to her dark, and that creates interest and draws the eye to her thumb. And I'm sure that's what the photographer was thinking when he took this picture of each other. So you see we have this lighter value and then we have a dark value right here. So I'm looking for the large light and dark value patterns, and that's going to help us when we come into color. Okay, so we'll work on this part of the sweater to create more. I think I'm going to use a freehand shield here because I want to maintain this edge. I'm going to kind of like crawl along the surface, perpendicular and not parallel, as you all know. Wipe that freehand shield in between. So we've actually gone pretty far so far. And I want to make sure that I'm not creating any contrasts that aren't there, right? So here I haven't gone in a while, so I'm going to take a non-aggressive eraser, maybe a mono, as soon as I find it. Let's see, if you were a mono eraser, where would you be? Behind something. Yep, that's where it is. So let's see how we can erase some of these pencil lines. Let's just give it a shot. Not too bad. So it seems to be erasing pretty well on this graphite here. This graphite paper. So that's nice. Maybe I can get a little more aggressive. Just a little more aggressive. Think of your lines as training wheels. You wouldn't take the training wheels off your kid's bike before they were ready. They'd be driving right into a mailbox. So we don't want that. So you see, I could really get rid of some of these pesky pencil lines. Because once we start coming in with acrylic, it's too late. They will be trapped. So it's still leaving kind of a little weirdness there, but let's see if I can adjust it, kind of fix it. So we do have a little bit of a line there. So I'm going to attempt to fix it. I think that worked out really well. No more pencil line. Just a hint of something was there. And let's see about the lips. That would be something very interesting to look at. How can we... Let's zoom in. Wow, what happened to the focus there, my friends? Okay. So I saw this short at the words abracadabra, and I think it was Hebrew, meaning it will happen as I say, or as I say it will appear. So the words abracadabra are actually Hebrew. So isn't that very interesting, guys? So abracadabra, as I speak it, so it shall be. I think that's great. And Mr. Dwayne Marshall, how are you, sir? All the way from St. Luis Obispo. Go Mustangs, not banana slugs. Always a pleasure, my friend. How was your week? And right now we're just getting rid of some of these Sorrel paper lines here. And that's the reason why I do the underpainting in India ink as opposed to any kind of acrylic. Now you may want to keep some of those pencil lines for the time being. You never want to get rid of them too early, you know. Ah, glad to hear it, sir. Thanks, Dwayne. Doing okay, you know, holding my own. Working hard, putting in the hours. That's what we got to do, right, Dwayne? We got to put in the hours, make sure we do the reps, right? And we build those artistic muscles, whatever it is we're trying to work on. So getting rid of some of these pencil lines that are going to get in the way when we start going in with color. Oh my God, it's 11:06. Guys, you believe it's 11:06? I thought it would be around 10:25. Oh, that's right, because we started 15 minutes later. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, man, did I go through a time warp or what? But still, the time's going by quick, 11:06, right? So that is interesting, because I'm so engrossed in the underpainting. And as we zoom out, there we go. So you see we got a nice underpainting going. So when we come back, we're going to do the initial layers of We're going to do the initial layers of the Createx, not Createx, Golden Fluid Acrylics in the airbrush. And that's going to be very fun. So here I don't worry so much about the pencil line because it's almost black. It's not going to be a problem. In the face it would be a problem if I had some strong pencil lines. So that's key to get rid of them there. Dwayne says, yep, no matter what it is, crazy allergy season out here and getting headaches but still get to pay. Oh man, so sorry that some years are really rough, you know, with the allergies. What I do is I do vegetable juicing, and that seems to boost my immunity, and I do better, but still it kicks my butt too. Seems to be a weird pencil line here. I'm not sure why this pencil line is here. Yeah, you'll see some weird pencil lines now and then. But the pencil lines are going away, and that's encouraging. So, you know, the inner contour pencil lines are the ones we really have to get rid of. So like right here, this is just an indication of the frontal bone, and as a frontal bone kind of turns away from the light and fades, turns into the background towards the back, we have that. So that was just an indication, a mental note, and so get rid of that whenever you can, at the earliest moment that you can. And you know, it's really great because, you know, with this surface you can beat it up. If this was paper, you couldn't beat it up like this. So you see, I'm more apt to get rougher with this paper. Dwayne, thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate the super chat. Thank you for the encouragement and your friendship, and it really means the world to me, sir. And you know, it's that boost you need, right, sir? That really is a good shot in the arm. So thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate that. Mr. Gregory, how are you, sir? How's everything? All the way from Oklahoma. How's everything over there? So I was watching a documentary about Barry Switzer. So he was from, I think, Oklahoma State. Is that Oklahoma? No, Oklahoma. He was the big coach in Oklahoma before he went to the Dallas Cowboys. Is he still like really revered and loved over there in Oklahoma? He was. What's really funny, thank you so much, Dwayne. You are the best, sir. Thank you. Barry Switzer, Jimmy Jones, and so Jimmy Jones and the guy who was, no, Jerry Jones, Barry Switzer, and the guy who coached in Miami, Jimmy, I forget his last name, but they were all like roommates in college and all of that. So a little Dallas Cowboys trivia. So Dave's been busy. Oh, busy doing artwork, I hope, but you know, just like family responsibilities, Dave. More Geronimo and Quanah Parker where I am at. Oh, so who's Geronimo and Quanah Parker? I am so sorry. A lot of times I'm so much in the studio I don't even know celebrities sometimes. And now I'm just going to deepen some of the darks of her jacket here, or coat, I should say. So I'm not really trying to get the dark of the coat, but I'm trying to get the relationships of the light and the dark. So when I do come into the dark, it it's very clear, you know, where the dark goes and the light, and get like an overall light and dark pattern. So when I am coming in with the color, I have a roadmap, right? And that's what we want. We want a good roadmap. And right here, lower that air pressure with the pack valve. So the great thing about the Extreme Patriot Arrow is that it comes with built-in Mac valve, so to speak. So, Mr. Dwayne, what's your project you're working on currently? I know you always have new projects going and business is good. I always pray that business is good for you, sir. And right here we have this little indication of her necklace or bracelet, I should say, not necklace, of course. And now that we darken this, we can definitely start darkening this value, this larger value. So I'm going to be about 5-6 inches from here, and I'm going to create this large dark pattern of her jacket. And as I deepen the values of the jacket, the luminosity of the skin starts coming out. But notice I'm moving around because with this kind of masonite and the gesso is that you can pull that water on there. It takes a lot longer for the moisture of the ink to actually get absorbed, so you have to be even lighter than I am with the color line paper by Canson. And of course I'm using the detail mixture, and I want to build up my lights with the detail mixture because A, it's going to be a very thin layer of ink, B, it retains the texture that I work so hard to achieve with the gesso. I'm not one of those artists that take the gesso and kind of make it totally slick. No, I like to have some texture that's created by the roller, the paint roller, and putting that in. I could also skip the underpainting and go straight in with the airbrush. That's always an option, but a lot of times I like having the comfort of having the underpainting so I can see how, where everything is going to be mapped out. It's a lot more comfortable. I had my light and dark values already taken care of, and then I could just come in and really worry about color and color changes and everything like that, and color relationships, because now I have a lot of the value relationships already established. Dwayne says he's been working on a big banner for a local young people for the local young people as for their upcoming convention. Wow, very cool. And so doing some free stuff. Dwayne also says he has several smaller commissions going. Nice. Glad to hear those commissions are coming in. That's always a blessing. Now I may make some stencils for her mouth and eyes when I come in with color, but that's to be determined for next week. So you may see some freehand stencils that I'll make in, you know, with the plotter. But that's a decision I'll make before then. But I am creating really nice light and dark patterns that are going to help me and give me a really good head start when I come in with color. And I'm about 5 inches from the subject, from 5 inches from the paper. And you're going to have a little bit of blotchiness for the first couple of layers, but a lot less if you were, let's say, 2 inches away or anywhere closer than that. Then you would get some serious blotchiness. Oh, Dave says, sorry for the delay. His hands weren't free to type. Busy with work, family life. Oh, that's important stuff. God bless you. I'm glad. I rejoice that you have that. That's great stuff to be busy with, which, you know, glad to see. And Dave says Geronimo was the last chief of the Free Apache Nation. Oh, that gentleman. Okay. He gave the U.S. Army a lot of hard fighting through Arizona before surrendering and becoming relocated to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Wow. That's pretty interesting. Very interesting. Thank you for that, sir. So you see, as I'm coming in each subsequent layer, it gets much and much more evenly. And notice that I'm very deliberate because of the fact of, you know, if you get too wet onto the masonite, you'll get a staining effect, and that's not a good look. It'll stain and it'll always be there, no matter what you do. So you have to learn from my bitter experiences in the past and make sure that you just gradually work on it. And you don't want to over wet the surface, not saturate, but over wet that surface. So let that surface absorb it. It's going to take a little while longer to absorb it, and then do your subsequent layers. And we'll just use this over here just to minimize any kind of overspray on the edge here. Again, about 6 inches away. This is how I actually started airbrushing, everybody. This was what I did. I used the airbrush strictly for an underpainting for pastels. And that's when, and I would do something like this, maybe a little more finished than this, and then I would go in with pastel. But I never used to do airbrush as a finished painting medium. It was always a means to an end. It was a step in my color paintings, whether it be airbrush or pastel in color. Back in the day when I used to work in oils, I didn't know anything about the airbrush, so I didn't do underpainting in oils back in the day. So as you can see, we're getting a nice underpainting. Very nice. It would be a beginning. You could actually take this and complete it and do a finished India ink painting on this masonite. You would just build it up a lot slower, you know? Oh, great start to this painting and really like the subject. Thank you, sir. Yeah, she is a fashion model from Brazil. Her name is Michela. She's Brazilian and a very cool person. Gave me the okay to go ahead and paint this. Dave says, Quanah Parker was the last chief of the Comanche Nation, that his descendants are still in the area. He brought the Comanche out of fighting and on the reservation, still has mixed feelings in the area. Yeah, so I can imagine, you know. It's like Michael Collins in Ireland. You know, he did end a war and, you know, made a truce with the crown. But a lot of people, then that's when they split Northern and Southern Republic of Ireland. So there's some mixed feeling in Ireland that Michael Collins should have kept fighting, right? Same thing, I'm sure, with the Comanche. You know, kind of that kind of emotion there. But I'd rather have peace than continue fighting, so I think it's great that he stopped the fighting. Less people died. Thank you for that. So Quanah, right? Quanah Parker. That is great. Oh, so I am out of ink. So we'll put some more of this detail mixture in. I think I'm going to go with the straight detail at this point, because before we were doing the detail mixed with 60-40, 60% ink and 40% water. We're going all the way. So this is definitely more of a freehand kind of approach. Not better, not worse, just different. There's so many different approaches we can do. So if I want to get detail, I'm going to get closer. But when you get closer, you may have to lower the pressure on your mat valve. And don't try to get it to the dark value you want to get right away. It takes time, and you don't want to rush it. Okay, so let's see if we could start working on her face a little longer for the last part of this painting here. So we'll zoom in and let's see what we can do. So right here we can kind of soften up this transition. this over. Just pumping that trigger ever so slightly. And just start creating some of these really soft inner contours. Work on the dark of the eyelash here, eyebrow, I should say. And we can darken that iris a bit in the pupil. And then, now we know that it's not white, so we're going to put some tone there to get rid of some of that white, right? We definitely know that this is all not white. And Brad says she's looking great so far. Thank you so much. So guys, I'm gonna pretty much call it a day here. So I'll be working on this underpainting, and then as we come back next week, we're gonna start with our initial layers of color. I may have some freehand shields, some custom shields that I might be making here, but I think it's going to be very interesting regardless. I might work out the background. And thank you so much, Todd. So this is the underpainting for the painting, painting in color. And I'm going to be using the Create Text, the Golden Fluid Acrylics, and a series of different airbrushes. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be very informative, and I hope everyone enjoys it. I hope to see you all next week. Dwayne, thank you so much for the Super Chat sticker. I really appreciate that. You're the best. Everyone, thanks for hanging out. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday. Bye, guys.